Sure. If we had
Sure.
an all-star team from the SEC and from the Big 12, absolutely.
Oh,
I'd
yeah.
probably spot the Big 12 about 3 touchdowns.
Yeah,
But
it'd be ugly for the Big 12.
also, we got our buddy Ocean View Coffee Shop. I really should not be joining this Big 12 bashing. This is all Ty here. This is not me.
I promise you, I want them to be good. I want more variety, more choices. I'm all
They're not
about that,
getting any
baby.
better.
Free market economy. We need competition. We don't need the SEC and the Big 12 dominating. We need the ACC and we need the Big 12, but there's just nothing about either of those conferences that are great. And I get the SEC is going to have, they might have some down weeks. They might even have a down year, but you and I both know, we've talked about it on countless shows. In fact, you've dropped knowledge on the SEC haters. It's just insane, some of the stuff that you've managed to point out, whether it's non-conference games compared to the SEC and those wins, bowl games and point spreads and all that. It's just so painfully obvious that the SEC and the Big Ten are it. And while there are good teams within like the Big 12 and the ACC, as a whole, those conferences just don't hold much water. And I wish they did. I really do. I will be rooting for the Big 12. I will. I'll be rooting for them. I'll be rooting for the ACC. Surprise me. Unfortunately, we saw Clemson, Virginia Tech, what happened to them versus Vanderbilt, which was a really good game, by the way. Shout out to Vanderbilt. But that's just 1 week. We'll see how the year unfolds. Maybe this is the year the SEC takes a step back, the Big Ten takes a little bit of a step back, and then these other conferences like really show us what's up in the playoffs. Anything can happen. Listen, I'll be rooting for it. I will. I'll be rooting for it.
So if we're going to go through, and this is going to be a question for you, Ty, and we're going to open up this question for the chat as well. But let's review what happened this weekend here real quick.
Okay.
In the SEC, in terms of what mattered, we're not going to go through Missouri's 51-0 win over the Sisters of the Poor and all that business. This is what happened in the SEC, basically, is Georgia completely throttled Clemson. Clemson may win the ACC. Georgia's the best football team until further notice in the country.
Yep.
Okay. I think Ohio State might be the only team that could beat them. Maybe, and Alabama might be the only teams that could beat them on a good day. Good day. But Georgia, my goodness, they are loaded and they are airtight everywhere on that field, every position, phenomenal. Okay, Georgia's phenomenal. They throttled Clemson. Clemson hung in the first half, 6-0, but they throttled them in the second half.
Oh, by the way, Georgia was missing somebody. They're missing the running back. He didn't play.
Oh, yeah.
I think
Trevor Etienne did not play.
Yeah.
But Nick Frazier there, phenomenal 5-star freshman, came in and just lit it up. Okay.
83 yards.
That means something to me, that result. Okay, LSU lost to USC. So that's a knock against the SEC. However, if we're evaluating teams, if we're evaluating games, flip a coin. Like either team could have won that game, USC, LSU. If they played 10 times, I can almost guarantee it would be 5-5. Like that was a toss-up. So LSU and USC are probably top 15 teams, and they played the kind of game you would expect. It came down to the very last kick of the last play of the game. So I don't consider that a bad look for the SEC because they were playing like seeded teams.
Mm-hmm.
And then Florida looked awful. But again, Florida's probably the 13th or 14th best team in the SEC, playing the team that might win the ACC, probably the best team in the ACC. So you got to understand that. That's like this situation now coming up with Arkansas against Oklahoma State. Arkansas is we'll have to wait and see, but based on preseason projections by most, probably the 13th or 14th best team in the SEC, and Oklahoma State's supposed to be fighting for a Big 12 championship. So it's not a like-seeded, like we can't come out of this game and say Oklahoma State won by 7. Wow, the Big 12 is so much better than the SEC. Like it's not a comparable game. Oklahoma State should be playing Tennessee or playing Missouri or playing LSU or somebody of that ilk, Texas, in terms of comparing the conferences.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's something else. I just remembered this. I have cousin Shane from that SEC podcast coming on the show tomorrow. Really excited about that. And I was doing some notes for that show, and something, I don't know if I'm going to bring this up to him or not. But this is from Heather Dinich, senior writer at ESPN.
Yep.
Dinich, yeah. The SEC had 4 wins on Saturday by 60 points or more, the most of any conference in a single day in the AP poll era since 1936. With Arkansas winning 70-0 on Thursday, the SEC has matched the most 60-point wins by a conference in a season in 1 week. Just an interesting side note there.
Yeah. Now, Colin is saying that the SEC had a bad week outside of Georgia. I do not agree with that.
I don't know about a bad week. I wouldn't go that far.
I don't see that at all. I don't see where anybody had a bad week. Texas A&M and Notre Dame played down to the last 3 or 4 minutes of the game.
They did.
So Texas A&M probably played. Texas A&M is going to be a fringe top 25 team. They're probably going to go 7-5 this year. They played a Notre Dame team that's going to be in the playoff. They're playing, folks. You gotta realize playing up a grade or 2.
Yeah.
And what that is. In Texas A&M, the game was 13-all with like 5 minutes left in the game.
I think the only knock or the only knocks are Florida. I mean, Mark, they might be the worst team in the SEC.
Well, then, but listen to what you're saying. If we're talking about the conference and evaluating the worst team in the SEC lost to the probable ACC champion, that should just be like a check mark. Okay, well, Miami did what they should do then. They did what they should be able to do then.
They did. But then you've got the other knock would probably be South Carolina. You know,
that's a bad look.
That was not a good game for them at all. But no, I agree. You know, who cares if you beat Old Dominion by 4 points, 23-19 at home? You still got the win. An ugly win is a win. But I think, unfortunately, outside of the USC, I mean, I guess you had 3 or 4 decent SEC games, but you had a lot of, Southern Miss, Alabama A&M, Eastern Kentucky, UAPB. You know, I get where maybe the outsiders looking in love to highlight those 2 bad losses or 2 bad games and go, oh, see, the SEC's down. It's like, well, no, hold on. It's kind of like you pointed out, Miami. I think you're right about Miami. Miami's going to be tough out of that conference, and maybe they're going to be one of the bright spots. I think they will be one of the bright spots.
Go send Georgia to play Miami and then get back to me.
Yeah.
Go send Alabama to go play them.
Did you watch Alabama? I didn't get a chance to watch that whole game.
I did not see any of that. I did not.
Apparently, they looked like they were doing it. And I mean, the score does kind of speak for itself. Western Kentucky has had its moments in the spotlight, but Alabama took it to them 63-0. And I mean, it's Western Kentucky. And that's the other problem too with week ones. Week ones are even more difficult to break down and look at and take seriously because the transfer portal, it complicates everything. So you think you know something, week 1 happens, you feel like maybe you were verified in your beliefs and your thoughts, and then someone out of the portal has a breakout season that you didn't see in week 1 or in the preseason. That's what's crazy about the portal. But yeah, I'm with you. I definitely don't think it was a bad week for the SEC at all.
I'm not saying it was an outstanding great week. LSU USC was in Notre Dame and Texas A&M. Those were the 2 like seeded, even money comparable games. They were basically close to, I don't want to call them pick'em games, but they were competitive on the line from Vegas, and the SEC dropped both of them. So I'm not saying it was a banner week for the SEC, but I'm saying that's why I said, let's look at the SEC. There's only about 4 games we can look at. The rest of them, they did what they were supposed to do. Yeah. They annihilated everyone 70-0, basically. There was, as you just read off, about 6 scores like that. And that didn't even take into account Missouri 51-0 and Mississippi State won 56-7.
Yeah.
Our buddy here, Tukey G. So Tukey G, he's here all the time. We love him. We appreciate you being here. However, let's understand this. See, this is one of these narratives that I understand where this comes from, but people don't back it with facts, Ty. And what do you think I did one time when people were going crazy in the chat? And I'm no Notre Dame lover, believe me. I go into Notre Dame chats. I went into a Notre Dame chat. I never do this. I showed up in a Notre Dame chat just because it was a guy that's on the show frequently. And as soon as people saw my name in that chat, oh my word, I've never been blasted like I was. Oh, these people hate me. The host was even going, hey, everybody, Mark's a great guy. Don't come on, man. All the hate. Yeah. Anyway, so I cut it straight. And when it comes to Notre Dame, that is a common thought. Notre Dame's always overrated. I went through like the last 15 to 20 years of AP preseason rankings. They're not overrated. They outperform their ranking just as many times as they underperform their ranking. It's like completely random. It's completely random.
So and I'm with you too. When you look at their schedule, like Mark, if they don't go 11-1, at least there's something wrong. I mean, I don't know that there's anything on that schedule that stands out outside of USC on the road. Or is that a neutral site game?
What game?
The very last game of the year when they play USC. Is that a neutral site?
No, they play at the LA Coliseum.
Okay. Well, that'll be interesting. The schedule, I don't know. Maybe Purdue, Louisville. Louisville will be good. But yeah, I don't know. And I had to tell people it's not overreact. A&M's trash. A&M's trash. They can't even beat an overrated Notre Dame. And I'm like, you guys realize that might be the best secondary in the country. Like that very well could be one of the best defenses. Now I get it. A&M, Elko's the head coach. They're not going to be known for offense, and they probably are 6-6, 7-5. Maybe if they really turn it around, 8-4. But let's calm down. I do believe they're a playoff team, but you obviously know. I know you've done your research. I'm sure you're gonna wake us up on Notre Dame a little bit. But I do tend to believe they are. A lot of people fall in love with them because of who they are. They are Notre Dame. They are one of the classic blue bloods of college football. When you think of college football, you think Notre Dame's always in that conversation somewhere. So therefore, they're always kind of given the benefit of the doubt. However, I know that defense looked damn good against A&M. Well, I guess we'll find out if that was just because A&M is going to be bad on offense, or maybe they're just really, really that good. But that was actually a pretty. For a defensive football game, that was actually I liked it. I mean, that's kind of that felt like old school football.
Yes.
And Notre Dame looked the part. I mean, it was fun to watch for me. Don't get me wrong, I love watching
the game as well. Yeah. I picked Notre Dame to win that game. I picked Notre Dame to go to the playoff.
What
the season?
Is there anyone on that schedule? And I know we're talking Arkansas and SEC, but is there anyone maybe I'm overlooking? I think Georgia Tech might be a challenge, but I think they get that team at home. I don't know if there's anyone, especially Florida State now. They're come on. They're 0-2. They're off to a wonderful start.
They look horrendous.
Oh my gosh. What is happening? What is happening? Is Norvell there's no way they fire him. No way, right? I mean, he just had a magical season.
He's a good coach.
He is.
He's a good coach. But that team, I'm not a guy that I'm more the analytical type. I don't get on here and rant and rave about trying to read facial expressions and body language. I'm not that guy.
Yeah.
But that team looked beaten down and drained and lacking confidence and
I got that same feeling, and I kind of wonder if he already is struggling to hang on to them for them to. I mean, it's clear they're not buying in. They're at least, to me, I could see last year, even when Arkansas was losing close games on offense in particular, it felt like they just were not. They're not sold on the Dan Enos Express. They're not sold on it. And you could just kind of see it. And then we'd get these little moments out of KJ, or the run game kind of picks it up a little bit, and then they just fall flat on their face, and the defense is doing everything they can. They were bought in for most of the season until things kind of collapsed after they were worn down throughout the gauntlet of the SEC. I kind of got that same vibe out of Notre Dame, like 2 games in, and they're just kind of over it.
Yeah, Florida State. Yeah.
Or Florida State, sorry. Yeah. I'm looking at Notre Dame's stats stuff on my page. But yeah, I was not impressed with Florida State. How could you be at 0-2?